say to you, Transform Zimbabwe as a political party is fully committed to the total transformation of our nation, and also we are also committed to the moral uprightness, transparency, honesty, and accountability as a political system. That is very important for me to say. Then on the issue of coalition, let me also report back to you that Transform Zimbabwe believes that only a coalition can win the 2018 election against Zanu PF. And we would want to believe that a coordinated opposition can win the election in 2018. So as a political party, we absolutely believe that there is every reason and need for opposition political parties to work together, to come together and come together under an alliance, an electoral alliance. Having said that, this doesn't take away the importance of opposition political parties to take due care to make sure that we don't have compromised political parties in that alliance. And for that, we also believe a system must be put in place to make sure that we identify the partners that we want to work with, and also we are confident that the partners can pull through to the election without causing disharmony within that alliance. And as a result, we are in the process of identifying those political players to work with. And as Transform Zimbabwe, let me report back to you that we are also working with the MDCT as one of the partners that we have identified in working or building an electoral alliance. We are very particular when it comes to that electoral alliance because we don't want it to break before 2018. You can have partners in that coalition who can maybe walk away from such a coalition, and that would be detrimental to the cause of democracy as a political party. So we are very particular when it comes to identifying political partners. Let me come to the issue of voter registration and the voters' role. Zimbabwe's population of 13 million people has an estimated 8 million eligible voters. However, only 4 million have been voting in the last two general elections of 2008 and 2013. In 2008, over 5 million people registered to vote, but only 2.5 million voted. And this figure represents just a quarter or 25% of the voting population. In 2013, 40,000 registered voters were considered invalid, and 3.4 million turned out to vote, as 69,000 votes were considered invalid, with 305,000 being turned away. All these have got a painful circumstances and are completely unacceptable in a democratic society. You can see that, our democracy is hugely compromised by the number of people either turned away. It shows the voting system itself or the voting process. Citizens are not fully aware of what are the requirements. Some of the people turned away did not have the proper documentation. So it means there has been a huge gap in terms of knowledge of the citizens themselves in terms of what is required for them to exercise their democratic right to vote. And above all, you see, these anomalies can be addressed by a well-planned and orchestrated voter education and registration program. As Transform Zimbabwe, we have therefore seen it imperative that a massive voter registration and education campaign be a priority for all Zimbabweans to vote freely, without fear, and allow all people to effectively register for the upcoming 2018 general elections. Both rural and urban voters will be reached out and sensitized. Transform Zimbabwe has been training volunteers on voter education. These volunteers will be conducting various voter education drives, including door-to-door activities in all communities. On March 4, 2017, as Transform Zimbabwe, we launched the Stop Blaming, Start Acting Vote 2018 campaign. The campaign was launched in Harare and shall spread to other cities and rural areas. The campaign focuses on the following areas. Number one, we want to enlighten all Zimbabweans on the importance of registering to vote. Then number two, the campaign is focused on informing citizens of the need to re-register to vote in light of the biometric voter registration. I'm going to talk about the biometric voter registration soon. And then we also want to make sure that we want to ensure that citizens have the right documentation to vote, which is perennially in every election. You see people being turned away because they don't have proper documentation. So we want to ensure citizens are fully aware of their requirements to register to vote. And not only that, but we also as a party assist them where there's need. Will assist them to make sure they have the right documentation that they need to register to vote. Then number 4, we want to inform citizens of the correct polling stations in their constituency. We want to make sure that citizens are aware of their nearest polling station. For under the new system, a voter can only vote at a polling station they are registered, and it's only one. So what we are doing as a political party is we are making sure citizens know exactly where they need to vote. Then number 5, we want to ensure citizens periodically check the voters' roll to ensure their names are on the voters' roll. Experience has shown us that in the last elections, citizens would find, they go to a polling station, you don't find your name. You don't find your name. And we want to make sure that we deal with this by ensuring citizens check periodically their names on the voters' roll before the election. I personally was a victim of that. I've always voted in my constituency since 2000. And in the last election of 2013, I think it was myself and my wife. My wife could not get her name on the voters' roll when we've been voting at that same polling station. But of course, I was fortunate enough, I found my name on there. And we had to look for my wife's name elsewhere, and we got it. But it was quite a painful process. So we want to make sure citizens know if their names appear on the voters' roll. Then number 5, we want to ensure citizens periodically check. Oh, okay, that's what I've just said. Then number 6, we want to work with citizens in the diaspora, especially South Africa and Botswana, to help them register to vote in Zimbabwe. You see, we know some of them. We are also fighting for the diaspora vote, but we are not sure whether we'll be able to get it. But of course, let me also hasten to say, on the diaspora vote, we want to make sure there are safeguards to ensure that if Zimbabweans in the diaspora are allowed to vote, there are safeguards to make sure that the vote won't be rigged in terms of its transportation to Zimbabwe and in terms of the movement of the ballots themselves. We want to make sure Zanu PF won't take advantage and actually rig through that diaspora vote. But should the diaspora vote fail to go through, then we want to make sure in countries like South Africa, Botswana, where we've got millions of Zimbabweans resident there, they are able to register to vote. So we've got also a program to reach out to them so that they can come to register, so that by 2018 they are able to vote. And lastly, on the points, we want to ensure that citizens understand the biometric voter registration system. Let me come to one of my main points of this address to you this morning, which is the biometric voter registration. As you are aware, Transform Zimbabwe has been working in the NERA community. In other words, we've been part of NERA since its inception, which is the National Electoral Reforms Agenda, fighting for electoral reform. We realize as a party that it's important and imperative for us to fight for electoral reform. And one of the key electoral reforms we've been fighting for is the biometric voter system. We've got 2 main reasons why we have been calling for this system as the opposition. Number 1, it takes the biodata of voters, which will enable stakeholders to check if people appearing on the voters' roll are the real people who are on that voters' roll. Then number 2, the fingerprint, which is part of the biometric voter system, will also help in the evaluation of the deduplication process to make sure that one person doesn't appear on the voters' roll twice. And we know already that one of our main complaints has always been that the dead have been voting, and we have a strong feeling that the dead have been voting for Zanu PF. So now with the biometric voter system, it will enable us to eliminate that anomaly. But of course, one of the things was that we agreed on as stakeholders was the implementation of the BVR, of the biometric voter system. We agreed that UNDP was going to acquire the kits, the BVR kits that would be needed to register people. And the process had already started and is ongoing. But of course, recently government then announced that they are going to, they want in fact they are saying they want the SPB, the State Procurement Board, to take over that process. As Transform Zimbabwe, working in NERA, we absolutely resist and reject that process of SPB taking over the acquisition or the identification of the company that is going to acquire the BVR kits. We know They want to do it for several reasons. They want to have an influence on the system that will be set up to enable them to register their members in an unlawful manner. So we are absolutely rejecting and resisting that. And we're doing it in 3 ways. Number 1 is Transform Zimbabwe. We are supporting the NERA demonstration, which is on Wednesday, the 22nd of March. We are saying we are mobilizing and galvanizing Transform Zimbabwe members as well as general citizens to come out in the streets and resist and make a statement that enough is enough. We are drawing a line in the sand. We will not allow government to influence the setting up of BVR. Then secondly, we are also signing a petition which we want to take to SADC. The petition, all we're saying in the petition is we want SADC to push the government to uphold to the SADC guidelines and principles on free and fair election. Zimbabwe is a signatory of those, but it's only Zimbabwe among other SADC community members which has not done anything as far as upholding those principles is concerned. So we also are going around signing a petition which we are going to take to SADC. And of course, thirdly, there are also going to be a NERA-led initiative to actually take government to court to respect the independence of ZEC. So these are the 3 ways and means that we are pushing to ensure that we rescue the BVR system. And of course, let me also say to you, as I conclude my remarks to you this morning, that we feel as a political party that the president needs to take a rest. He is 94 years old, and to see him struggle to walk trying to do state business in a nation of over 13 million people, I think is number 1, unfair on him, and number 2, it's not any good for the nation. If you look at the inconsistency in terms of policy that is coming out of government, you can clearly see that no one is in charge anymore. And we feel that at 93 years, he must be taking a rest rather than to be fighting in the political terrain of our country. We feel this is one of the reasons that the country has absolutely struggled like the way it is. So these are the remarks that I had to you. Thank you so much for listening.